Eddie Murphy. This wasn't just a comedian. This was a cultural phenomenon, a comedy supernova. He had the Midas touch. From the raw, electrifying energy of his stand-up comedy that frankly had never been seen before, to a string of blockbusters that not only made money, but defined an era. 48 Hours, Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop. This man was a king, the undisputed golden boy of comedy. It felt like Eddie Murphy made you laugh until your stomach hurt. He was untouchable, or so we all thought. And then, that fateful night came. May 2nd, 1997. A date etched into tabloid history. A moment that shook not just Hollywood but the world. Suddenly, the laughter died. The story fell apart. The king, it seemed, was caught in a delicate situation that threatened to topple his entire empire. We're talking about careers in tatters, reputations in tatters, the kind of scandal from which few, if any, ever truly recover. But here's the key point, the part that often gets lost in the gossip. What if that moment of utter darkness, that absolute abyss, was actually a lifeline? What if the scandal that nearly destroyed Eddie Murphy actually, in the long run, saved him? To understand the magnitude, you have to grasp the height of his fame. We're not just talking about a successful actor. We're talking about a young man from Roosevelt, Long Island, who burst onto the scene on Saturday Night Live at age 19, and not only joined the cast, he became the life of the show. In a cast of future legends, Eddie was the breakout star, the one you had to turn on the TV to see. He had a bold, almost dangerous energy. And then Hollywood called, and he didn't just answer, he kicked the door down. Beverly Hills Cop? It wasn't just a hit. It redefined the action comedy genre and made him a global superstar. Coming to America, the Nutty Professor, he didn't just play characters. He embodied them, often multiple roles in the same film, a testament to his breathtakingly versatile comedic range. He was a box office cash cow. Studios worshipped him. The world couldn't get enough of him. He was young, rich, incredibly famous, the absolute pinnacle. But let's be real, that pressure, that constant spotlight, it wears you down. Imagine being that famous, being that scrutinized. Every move dissected, every word exaggerated. How profound the loneliness of being at the top can be. You're surrounded by people, yet completely alone. Even then, there was whispers that behind the infectious laugh and million-dollar smile, Eddie was struggling with the tremendous weight of his own legend. The pressure to always be in shape, always be funny, always deliver another blockbuster. It's a gilded cage, folks, and the bars are invisible until you run into them. And then came that infamous night in West Hollywood. Early in the morning of May 2nd, 1997. The official story, as it went, was that Eddie Murphy, while driving his Land Cruiser, was pulled over by police. In the passenger seat, a person later identified as a transgender prostitute. The media, they didn't just cover it, they launched it into orbit. It was a media feast. Think of what people saw. Eddie Murphy, family man, beloved comedian, voice of Mushu in Disney's Mulan, then in production, and this. It was a collision of public and private life. Eddie's explanation, given through his publicist, was that he was simply giving people a ride, an act of Good Samaritan late at night. Did it make sense? Maybe. Lots of people gave people rides, but in the skeptical, scandal-hungry court of public opinion, in an era before social media allowed celebrities to control their own narratives, it was a very, very hard explanation to swallow. The damage wasn't just done, it was catastrophic. The carefully constructed image, the years of goodwill, it felt like it had evaporated overnight. What happened next was a quiet collapse from within. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't a sudden death of a career, but a slow, painful erosion. The A-list scripts, they started to dry up. The studios, famously risk-averse, were perhaps more cautious. His comedy peers, some of them, weren't so nice. The jokes, often cruel, continued. It was the kind of public shaming that can ruin a person, let alone a career. And this is where things get interesting, where the story had a turning point that most people missed. Because while the rest of the world was busy dissecting the scandal, judging, or laughing, something else was happening beneath the surface for Eddie. You could almost sense it in his rare public appearances around that time. A retreat. A retreat. This wasn't just a PR crisis for him. By all accounts, it was a deeply personal reckoning. The king of comedy had been brought down, and in that shame, perhaps, were the first whispers of a different kind of awakening. It wasn't just a scandal. It was a resounding wake-up call. At this point, many stars in that situation might try to fight back, try to overcompensate, rush into any project to prove they were still valuable. Eddie did something different. He chose silence. He didn't disappear entirely, but he became extremely selective, almost reclusive by Hollywood standards. He focused on his family, on his children. He reportedly turned down script after script, not out of arrogance, but perhaps out of a newfound need to find projects that had real meaning, or perhaps just to find himself away from the spotlight. He was rebuilding, not his career, at least initially, but his life. His priorities seemed to have changed. The mad pursuit of fame and box office seemed to be receding, giving way to something quieter, more grounded. And then, nearly a decade after the scandal, came Dreamgirls. As James Thunder Early, he wasn't just Eddie the funny one. He was naked, he was vulnerable, he was tragic. It was a great dramatic turn that reminded everyone of the enormous, often untapped talent that lay within him. The Oscar nomination that followed was more than just a career award. It was an acknowledgement. It was Hollywood saying, "Okay, Eddie, welcome back. We see you." But this was a different Eddie, an Eddie who had weathered a terrible storm and come out the other side, not unscathed, but certainly changed. This is where the idea of saving his life really starts to make sense. Think about the trajectory he was on, the relentless pressure, the isolation of his peak fame. That scandal, as devastating as it was, forced him off the fame track, forced him to reevaluate everything. So here we are, Eddie Murphy, now in his 60s, a living legend, respected, admired, and still incredibly funny, but with a depth and a wisdom that perhaps only comes from overcoming profound adversity. That night in 1997 could have been the end. It could have been the final, tragic chapter in the story of a star who rose too fast, too strong. Instead, it became a devastating, painful, but ultimately transformative turning point. What do you think? It's a complicated story, isn't it? Were you there when this scandal broke? What was your reaction then, and how do you view it now? Do you believe that a moment of public humiliation can actually lead to spiritual redemption? I'm really curious to hear your views. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Swing. Be sure to like and subscribe for more untold facts and behind-the-scenes looks. We have so much more to explore. Thanks for watching.